And we are back on the record. Because this recording will be slightly different than Ms. Johnson, our court reporter who was online, I'll go ahead and restate some of the pertinent facts. This is case number ER-2024-0261. This is an on-the-record evidentiary proceeding. In attendance and already entered their appearance was counsel for Empire staff, Office of Public Counsel, Consumers Council of Missouri, and Midwest Energy Consumers Group. Influent has not entered an appearance, and the Empire District retired members and IBEW Local 1474 have already been excused from the hearing. Mr. Bergstresser has also been excused from the hearing. We are set to begin with witnesses. This on-the-record proceeding was set with no opening statements. The commission would like to call Amy Walt to the stand.
Judge, if I may,
Yes, Mr. Williams.
I just want to emphasize that public counsel is not waiving its objection to this proceeding.
Thank you. And I did forget to mention that. I was going to mention that, make sure that was on the record. Public counsel has objected to the carrying out of this on-the-record evidentiary proceeding. That objection is still pending.
Your Honor,
Yes.
yeah, if you don't mind, I would like to go on record in support of the OPC's objection on that point, just as an ongoing objection.
Consumers Council now joins in the previously objected to objection filed by public counsel.
That's right.
Ms. Walt, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth in this matter?
I do.
Thank you. And we will now start with commissioner questions. Are there any Commissioner Mitchell, would you please lead us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Ms. Walt, I am just reading from the first page of the supplemental stipulation agreement, and it says in the first paragraph that this supplemental agreement establishes specific billing and customer service metrics that Liberty is required to meet for 3 consecutive months, and goes on to say before implementing any changes in rates. So I'm curious of what provisions of the supplemental stipulation would assure that the customer service improvements will be made before new rates can be implemented.
Sorry if I understand your question properly. Which metrics are we going to be looking at? Is that your question?
Yes.
Yeah, so there are 6 metrics that we have outlined in the stipulation agreement. They all stem from Schedule 13, the service regulations for Missouri. And those are the metrics that we're looking at. So would you like me to state the 6 metrics? I can go through those.
Yeah, would you walk us through them?
Sure. The first one is really related to, let me just make sure I got them all here. So it's making sure that our customers who move into an account or that are moving out of an account are not receiving an estimated bill unless being able to get an actual read is outside of the control of the company, such as a aggressive dog or a ice storm or something like that. We should be offering a actual bill to our customers who are moving in or having a final read. So that's one of them. Another one is that we are required to give our customers a bill that it has a usage period between 26 and 35 days. So that's ensuring that our meter reads are occurring on a regular basis and that our customers are receiving usage on a consistent basis between 26 and 35 days. Then we have one that says our customers need to ensure that they have 21 days between the time that the bill is issued and the due date that's stated on that bill has to have a minimum of 21 days in order for them to pay their bill. So we need to make sure that that is there. There was one about that we had a issue where we were prorating a customer service charge, even though the bill was between 26 and 35. That was an error in the system that was fixed in August, and we haven't seen any of those going forward, but that is one of the rules. We have to make sure that, that stays in place. And then we have one that is 9+. So any customers' bills are expected that they get their bill consistently during the same cycle every single month. The metric is that we need to make sure that we're within 9 days of that bill cycle, 99.7% of the time for our customers. And there is one more that I am missing. The last one is that customers are not going to receive just a service charge on their bill. That their bill, if they are on a tariff that requires us to have a meter with usage associated with that we have to be able to demonstrate that the meter is attached to the account and that the customers can actually see their usage, a beginning and ending read on their bill. We can't just send out just a service charge to the customer. And those are the 6 metrics, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, those are the 6. Move in, move out, 25, 21 days, 9+ service charge, and then the one that's kind of a bit of an error.
So I can appreciate that the metrics proposed here are, in my mind, aimed at billing, primarily at billing, and those would be intended to bring Empire into compliance with commission rules. But what I'm having a hard time connecting is billing and customer service metrics to this agreement. And customer service, in my mind, relating to the ability to have issues resolved at call service centers, being able to go to a field office and actually be able to understand what's in the bill, and for a customer to be able to pay the bill. So I don't see the service aspects covered in the stipulation agreement as well. So I'm curious if you could shed any light on that for me.
Yeah, those service agreements, or the service level agreements today are not in Schedule 13, but we do report out on them every month to the commission staff. And so we have been meeting the average service level. We met that for 6 months in a row. November, we were a little bit higher than the 80% of our calls within 30 seconds is what we strive for today. There isn't today a law or a rule around that 80% within 30 seconds. That's just something that we have historically achieved. And so that's something that we continue to strive towards. I've stated my opinion to the staff that I feel like that is a very costly model and not really an expectation of our customers to be at answering.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. I believe this is going beyond the purpose for which this hearing was noticed up. The hearing says it's concerning the supplemental stipulation, including its relation to the global stipulation. What we're now going on into is a bunch of evidence about customer metrics, which are not part of this agreement, to my knowledge.
Overruled. Thank you.
So as I was saying, the 80-30, so answering a call within 30 seconds, again, in my history, 30 years, I've been in the utility industry, serving in the customer service space at 3 different utilities. The 30 seconds is incredibly aggressive. We have done statistics at other companies that have shown anything greater than 120 seconds is where your customer satisfaction starts to dip. So 30 seconds is very fast, which in order for us to achieve that is also an expensive model. So I've expressed that to staff, but currently that's historically where we've been, is just more of an agreement of where we should try to strive for. So we've been striving towards the 80% at 30 seconds. We met that for 6 months in a row. We were a little bit higher than that in November, just primarily due to holidays, vacations, sick time for our staff. But we continue to strive towards that until we can come into a different agreement around that 80-30. So we continue to measure those and provide them to staff every month, and we will continue to do that. And we continue to share with them call volume stats as well, how many calls are coming into our customer contact centers. We just recently opened the Aurora office for just an assessment of what type of needs do our customers have from more of a walk-in type center? Are we not able to serve them through the call centers? We've seen 8 customers come in since mid-December when we opened that office. Again, primarily just questions around their bill, setting up payment
This meeting is
arrangements,
being
things like that.
transcribed and summarized.
Thank you, Ms. Walt. This seems like a good opportunity to interrupt the questioning very quickly. Internet has been restored, and we are now back on to the WebEx. We are still recording, so I'm going to let this play out for 5 or 10 minutes before I double check to make sure our court reporter has rejoined. But we are still on the record, and everything is still being recorded. I just wanted to very quickly interrupt and let everyone know that. I apologize, Commissioner and Ms. Walt, for the interruption. Please go ahead.
No worries. Please continue.
So I believe those are metrics that we will continue to measure. We also measure customer satisfaction metrics. So we've measured first call resolution. We ask our customers how they feel about their service levels through after call surveys. We also look at, is the same phone number coming in multiple times? And so we can actually see if they're achieving first call resolution. We've improved that from 71% to 79% year over year. And our customer satisfaction with our agents, we've seen that raise as well. We were at 86% customer satisfaction with our agents. So those are all metrics that we provide on a monthly basis to staff, and we'll continue to do so.
So, as I understand it, the relationship between the global stipulation and the supplemental stipulation, there are really 2 sets of metrics involved here. One being metrics for billing and customer service, which need to be met before any rates can go into place. The other metrics revolve around the customer first recovery. So can you elaborate on how those metrics are differentiated? And you've already talked about billing metrics, but what about the customer first metrics?
Yeah, the way I think about it is, in order for us to get rate recovery, we really need to be able to show that we are meeting the service regulations, the laws of the level of service that we're able to provide. That's those billing metrics. They're in Schedule 13. They, are service regulations that we have to meet. As we think about the customer first metrics, the additional recovery for customer first, those metrics will be determined in May through additional conversations. At this point, we do anticipate that it would be a combination of those billing metrics and also some of these customer service type metrics that I just spoke about.
Do you think the company would object for the metrics that will be developed and submitted in May? Would there be any objection to those metrics focusing in part on customer service improvements?
For the customer first
Yes.
metrics, no, we're fully anticipating that, obviously pending additional discussion, but we're very supportive of the additional customer service metrics being included as part of the customer first recovery.
And would the company, in your view, have any objection to submitting those metrics to the commission for their review and approval?
Absolutely not.
So just to be clear, in the supplemental and in the no, not in the non-unanimous, in the supplemental, the new rates would not go into effect until such metrics were met and verified.
Correct. We will not receive any rate recovery until those 6 metrics are reviewed that are the service regulations of the state are met for 3 consecutive months. And then in addition to that, we will not receive recovery of customer first until such time that we've established additional metrics that will take place in May. And then we have to achieve those every month. And the recovery is spread over a 12-month period. We recover 1/12 of that recovery each month that we make the metrics as we think about the customer first. So those metrics have to be sustained over that year period.
Okay. And just as a follow-up, do you, your opinion that just compliance with the commission rules would ensure adequate service for your customers?
I view the billing rules that are the 6 metrics are the laws. Those are the ones that we're gonna focus on achieving. I believe that's a yardstick that we have to meet. Those are bare minimum standards in order for us to do service for our customers. I do expect that we will continue to improve our levels of service for our customers in other ways as well. In addition to these 6 metrics, we're also looking at other metrics that we provide on a monthly basis to staff, such things as how often are we having to cancel rebill customers? You know, how often are we having complaints come into the commission staff? So those are other metrics that we look at on a regular basis. So we'll continue to advance the service levels for our customers. I fully expect us to be serving our customers well. That's what we're here for.
And do those things by themselves define adequate service?
Do they by themselves? I mean, we're required to provide service in multiple different ways. You know, my area is around customer service, but, you know, there's reliability standards that we also are focused on, making sure that our infrastructure and all of those things are also in place for our customers. So it's actually just one piece of what we're required to do as a utility.
I just have one more question for you, Ms. Wald.
Of course.
In the global stipulation agreement, there is discussion about arrearage forgiveness. Where does the money for that come from? Is that from shareholders? Is it some split with shareholders and customers? How is that funded?
As I understand it, and this might be a better question for my colleague here, but as I understand it, is the $8.5 million would be given to customers who are struggling with their past due balances. As we ask for rate recovery, we do a 5-year average for our uncollectible expense, and so we'll continue to ask for that recovery over the 5-year average as we file future rate cases. So in the future, those dollars would be recovered, but it would be as we file future rate cases. And it would be dependent on what uncollectible expense looks like at that time.
Okay. And is there another witness that you think I should ask the same question
Yes,
to?
Charlotte Emery is here, and you probably could ask her. She might have a more eloquent answer.
Okay. Just want to make sure I understand it.
Yes, for sure.
Judge, I don't have any more questions for Ms. Wald.
Thank you, Commissioner. The chair has questions.
Morning, Ms. Walt.
Good morning.
As Commissioner Mitchell highlighted in his questions, you know, we're very interested in customer experience. I think the supplemental stipulation did a good job in identifying the billing components of that. And so when we're talking about customer experience and those metrics, I think one of the issues that's continued to sort of come up is the Aurora office. Even in the meantime, while this case has been pending, we have received inquiries into our call center regarding the Aurora Center. Folks not being notified that it's open, not being able to accept payment. And I do understand that, you know, there are additional logistics that have to go with accepting payment. But as part of improving customer experience, I'm really hoping that the metrics that are developed and the commission may look at in the future could have some measure of, you know, in-person customer experience. Are you all contemplating additional improvements at the Aurora Center or your payment centers or anything that you could share?
Yeah, so we have expanded our, I will call them third party. So as the customers will go shopping at Walmart, they can make their payment. As they walk into a CVS store, they can make a payment. You know, so looking at options where it's more convenient for them to make a payment versus coming into one of our centers. So that's really what we've been trying to do, is create more of a convenience for our customers that actually then is a more cost-effective option for the rest of the customers who aren't, you know, using those walk-in centers. We did understand that, you know, our customers have experienced challenges from a billing perspective, and some of those challenges can be complex, and some of them have been struggling to get answers over the phones. And so that is the primary purpose of why we are reopening Aurora, to just see what is happening out there. Are there still these more complex issues out there that our customers are struggling to get responses? From an industry perspective, we are outside of the norm to continue to have walk-in centers. That isn't really the norm of the industry anymore. I do understand why we have them, is because we've really struggled with our deployment of our customer first system. And so we've really wanted to make sure that we were out there and offering an option for our customers to have an in-person option. But these other opportunities should actually be more convenient for them to go into the Walmarts, to go into the CVS's. And as those stores and those footprints grow, we're also growing with them. Our provider has told us that if there's some of these communities are smaller, they might not have a big Walmart there, they might not have a CVS. They're very much willing to work with a smaller, mom and pop, a liquor store, or a grocery store that's smaller, that's in the area, that they will accept payments, set up an arrangement where we can accept payments from there. And so we're very much wanting to work with our customers, but as you've seen, opening up an office is quite an expense to us as a company, and logistically with, having to set up credit cards through a third party and armored cars and all those things for cash is definitely an expense for us as a company.
I understand and acknowledge those expenses. I think we're in a place of customer experience where we want to be helpful, but then when the person comes in to get help, we may not be being as helpful as we could be to the customer. And so I really would encourage thinking about trying to expand those, at least in the short term, payment options at any in-person center until customer experience improves in the long term. So I'll be looking forward to looking at those metrics in May.
Yeah, appreciate that, and appreciated your feedback, and
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why we did the Aurora experiment, so that we could really see what the need is out there. So appreciate your feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Are there any other commissioner questions for witness Walt? Commissioner Coleman, go ahead.
Thank you. Excuse me, Ms. Wald. I may have just been having one of my senior moments when you answered the question from Chair Hahn. So I might have missed this. I do know that the number of complaints that we've received are still centering around the offices. Did I miss you explaining anything relative to customers being able to pay in the office? Is that the part that Chair Hahn is questioning because of the inability to pay in the offices?
They can pay in all of our existing walk-in offices. We, based on some feedback, we actually reopened our Aurora office. It had been closed for 5 years. We reopened that office as a bit of a information gathering experiment, and so we've opened it 2 days a week. And we were offering it for customers to come in who had complex billing challenges. We did not set up all the logistics at that Aurora office in order to take payments at that one office. Because it had been closed for 5 years, we have already set up our third-party pay arrangements with the Walmarts and the CVS's and all of that in the area. And so we felt the need was really about ensuring that those customers who had complex issues could have those one-on-one conversations. And so we reopened the office to allow for those one-on-one conversations. We did not open the office to allow for payments, given the logistics that would need to be necessary, the security. We only have one person there. I wouldn't be able to do that if I have cash there. We'd have to have multiple people there for security, for controls around the cash. We'd have to have armored car. We cannot take credit cards. Our own internal people of Liberty cannot take credit cards. We can't touch credit cards. Only a third party can, so we'd have to set up all that. So it would have been a very lengthy time as well to get all of that set up, and we understand the need is now when our customers were experiencing these more challenging issues. So we wanted to get set up very quickly, and so we've set up. We have it open as we speak. To date, again, we've seen, actually, as of the 6th, we had 3 more customers. So we've seen 11 customers in those offices. We have posted on Facebook. We have it on our website. We are trying to communicate more that the office is available and what it's available for. But do appreciate the feedback around potentially needing to look at, how can we take payments there as well. But again, our thinking was we have these other actually more convenient options for them to make payments, but we'll take a look at that.
So in Missouri, how many walk-in offices do you have in your service territory? Do you know, down in, or you're in Joplin, I assume?
Yes, we're in Joplin, absolutely. I do not have that number off the top of my head. I believe it's but Charlotte probably does have that number off the top of her head.
Okay.
So you could ask her that exact number, but yes, we do have staff. I believe it's 5 or 6, but we'll get that exact number for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Commissioner. The judge has just a couple quick questions before we get to cross-examination.
Sure.
I would like to confirm in the supplemental stipulation, there is no recovery, 0 of Customer First until after the metrics are met. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's nothing in the original $97 million that we're going to receive after we consistently receive 3 months of consistent performance of those billing metrics. Still does not have Customer First recovery. Not until we set up the additional customer service metrics that we've talked about setting up in May. That's when the Customer First recovery kicks in.
Judge, just so we don't get too confused by that, if it's okay, Ms. Emery probably would be the right person to talk to about those rate issues, because that second step really is a regulatory asset. There's no rate change associated with that until potentially a future rate case.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I did misspeak. That was in the global. And I just wanted to confirm that the supplemental did not modify that.
That's correct.
Okay. My second question is the metrics that are in the supplemental, did Empire start tracking those on January 1st?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. We will go to cross-examination. And for the information of the parties, I made up my own schedule. I tried to look at our procedural order from the evidentiary hearing, could not locate the cross-exam order, and in the couple minutes that we had before we started, I even tried to look it up in the rule. So from my memory, the rule states something that the cross-exam goes by order of, I guess, disagreement with the party of that witness. So for company witnesses, I have the commission asking questions, and then MECG, Influent, who is not in attendance, staff, CCM, and OPC. Does anyone have any objections to that order? Excellent, we'll go with that. So we'll open this up for cross-examination. We'll start with Mr. Opitz.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'll move to staff.
Yes, Your Honor. Earlier, you were asked about, the customer call centers, and you said that you've only had 11 customers who's visited. Now, my question for you is, what time frame were those 11 visitors visiting the call centers?
I'm sorry, that was just for Aurora. That's just since we opened Aurora. So that was in December when we opened that, and that was through January 6th.
Have you had more visitors at other locations? Do you have that number?
I do not have that number.
Okay.
Yes.
You said that, you decided that the need was now and that you have several venues to pay, Walmart, so on and so forth. Is that a forever plan, or is there any plans on having that availability at your call centers to pay in Aurora?
I would say the current plan was to further expand the third-party network for the convenience of customers to make payments. There's currently not plans to expand walk-in centers on the utility property.
Moving on to the metrics, there's two different sets of metrics, one in the non-unanimous global stipulation and agreement, the other in the supplemental. You're going to be keeping track of these metrics, but who will decide ultimately when these metrics are met and when you will be allowed to start collection?
We submit the metrics on a monthly basis to the commission staff, and the staff reviews those metrics, and they determine whether we've met the metrics or not.
But does staff actually decide when the rates go into effect, or is it another body that does?
That I'm not sure about.
All right, no further questions.
Thank you. That'll take us to Consumers Council.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Walt.
Good morning.
Let me first ask a question about the arrearage forgiveness, part of the original non-unanimous stipulation that you referring to. That is as I understand it, a one-time $8.5 million forgiveness of arrearages, and that's and the way that money would be spent is yet to be determined. Is that right?
That's correct.
And is that, and under the stipulation, it's states that the company will forgive the $8.5 million through a targeted relief initiative. And is your understanding that is something that the company would absorb and not necessarily the ratepayers, at least as regards as this rate case goes?
I'll let Charlotte answer that
Okay.
just to make sure that it's answered appropriately, just to make sure.
That's
I'm
a
not getting
question
out
for
of
the
my-
rates department folks.
That's correct,
Okay,
yes,
understood.
yes.
Okay, well, let me go back to the metrics that are in the supplemental stipulation. And those are the A, B, C, D, E ones that you went through, and, or A, B, C, D, F. And would you agree with me that all except for one of those is targeting basic compliance with the rules that are the commission's billing rules in Chapter 13?
That's correct.
Okay. And I think Commissioner Mitchell was asking what part of that relates to customer service instead of just billing. And I wasn't sure I understood your answer. Which one of those A, B, C, D, E, F metrics do you believe relates to the customer experience or customer service generally?
I think they all relate to how the customer experiences us, because I think that bill that they receive every month is a reflection of how we build trust with our customers. They expect an accurate and a timely bill each and every month from us. That's what these metrics look at. What I understood the question to be was specifically about our call center performance, or how our customer service agents are handling service for our customers, and that is not reflected in these particular metrics, but we do provide visibility to that to the staff and to OPC and others on a monthly basis.
So you mentioned that you are tracking the 30 seconds to answer the phone.
Correct.
And you know what the progress is on that. Is that something that you believe would be appropriately put into a metric that could condition the rate increase?
As we think about the customer first, or the SAP system, I would anticipate through that dialogue that would most likely be, some level of that will be included in that portion of the agreement.
And then you also mentioned that tracking the number of complaints at the Public Service Commission would also be a potential metric?
I think there's discussions happening. We need to have those discussions. Those metrics have yet to be determined, and I'm very open to the feedback from staff and others as to what those metrics should be for our customers. But at the end of the day, I'm here to improve service for our customers, even outside of these arrangements, and so that is something that I do watch and track and make sure that I understand.
Is that, do you track those contacts with the Public Service Commission differently as far as complaints and inquiries, or different types? Do you make a distinction between contacts that are complaints and other types of contacts?
I'm not sure. The report that I see, I believe, are informal complaints,
Okay.
informal complaints that come into the PUC.
Okay. Are there any other metrics that you think might be appropriate and helpful with regard to customer service
So
to be considered?
the metrics that I've spoke about in my testimony, and the ones that I share on a monthly basis, can continue to be ones that I watch, which are the first call resolution, customer satisfaction with our agents, cancel rebills, and average speed of answer, those types of metrics.
Is there any sort of data that the utility collects from customers rating their experiences on the phone?
That is specifically from the customers. When we say, are you satisfied with the service from the agent that you spoke to? That is one of the metrics that we measure and monitor, and our customers have said that they are 86% satisfied with speaking with that agent, which is an improvement. Ever since August, we've been above 80% success on that particular metric, and that is actual feedback from our customers.
Is that a metric that you've been reporting to the staff or public counsel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, on a monthly basis.
What about the idea of tracking customer service based on a third-party entity such as J.D. Power and Associates? Do you think that could be a metric that would be worth considering?
I have been exploring that actually with J.D. Power, because some of you may be aware, we've used J.D. Power in the past. What I have learned from them is that only 2 of the utilities within the Liberty's 29 separate utilities are actually large enough to be measured against their methods and how they use them. So I'm in talks with them as we speak to figure out how we could use them as a method for us to do an assessment, but I would say currently the price tag is pretty steep for only 2 utilities to be able to measure.
So J.D. Power and Associates requires the utility to pay them to be monitored?
That's correct. A lot.
Right. Is there any monitoring that you're aware of that J.D. Power and Associates does without the utility subscribing or paying for services?
I have not been able to get any free service from them, no.
Okay. Are you, what services are you currently subscribing to?
We currently do not have any. We canceled our agreement in March of 2025 with them. So they were doing some assessments up until March of 2025. Since then, we have not been using them, and I've just recently been engaging in conversations, like I said, to try to understand what it is they could potentially do for us.
What was the reason for the cancellation?
The price tag.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Public counsel stands on its objection and does not intend to waive it by engaging in cross.
Okay. Redirect from the company.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Walt, and you may have said this in response to Mr. Kaufman's questions, but would you describe the metrics in the supplemental stipulation as being focused on correct and timely billing?
Yes,
And do you believe that that's a part of good customer service?
absolutely.
Is there any benefit to the call center and its ability to respond to customer interaction and complaints from a reduction or an improvement of billing accuracy and timeliness?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, I guess I'm trying to get around to the question of whether the things you have done so far, whether the metrics show that the complaints that you've received have reduced over the course, or did reduce over the course of 2025.
Yes, we've seen a significant reduction in complaints through 2025. We see less than 20 complaints coming in now. I think for the month of December, only 4 or 5 complaints versus a peak of over 100 complaints earlier in 2025.
And earlier, when you testified in the primary evidentiary hearing here, I think you talked a little bit about you did take time to review comments that were provided at the local public hearings, correct?
Yes, and I attended the public hearings as well.
And did you hear a lot of complaints at those hearings about billing accuracy and timeliness?
I did.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Ms. Walt, you are excused from the witness stand. The next witness will be Charlotte Emery, please. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And I didn't ask the previous witness, but her name was spelled Amywalt. Would you please spell your name for our court reporter?
Yes, it's Charlotte, Charlotte, and it's Emery, Emery.
Thank you. And we will begin with commissioner questions. Chair Hahn.
Yeah, just to follow up on a couple things we talked about already. Customer first recovery. As mentioned earlier, is it your understanding that in this case, there is no recovery for customer first until a future rate case? And in a future rate case, if metrics are met by month, it offers the potential, though not guaranteed, option for recovery, something for the commission to consider in a future rate case, not in this one. Is that right?
That is an accurate understanding. This $97 million does not include any dollars associated with Customer First. And if you look at that first global settlement, it pulls out roughly $20 million, I believe, that's associated with C1. And the only portion that will be allowed if we meet and when we meet the metrics is that related to the $13 million. The $6 million is forever gone, where the company is going to forego ever being able to recover those expenses associated with Customer First. However, if and when we determine those metrics and we meet them on a monthly basis, we would record that in a regulatory asset, and that regulatory asset would be brought forth in a future rate case proceeding. And at that time, that is when the commission, the staff, all parties would get an opportunity to evaluate whether it would be appropriate to include that balance in customer rates at that time.
Thank you. The customer first metrics, the global stipulation says that the parties, I'm assuming that's the parties to the stipulation, come up with the metrics. Is that correct?
That is the company's understanding, yes.
So it's only the parties that are signatories to the stipulation determine those metrics?
That is the company's understanding. Of course, it is ultimately up to the commission to approve whether or not those metrics are satisfactory.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. Okay. Can you describe generally the phase-in of rates?
Sure. So the phase-in is essentially a third a year of the 97 million is how it's contemplated. And so that first year, customer rates, we would file tariffs that would increase rates by essentially a third, roughly 32 million, I believe. And then those rates would stay into effect for 1 year. And then the next year, we would have an additional third added on to that. So then customers would be at that point paying 2/3 of the 97 million. And then that third and final year is when rates would fully reflect the 97 million. And then the deferral that's happening because that first year, if you're only collecting from customers 1/3, the 2/3 is getting hung up in a deferred regulatory account that will be brought forth in a subsequent rate case. So from the effective date of the rates in this case until the commission changes rates again, they would not be recovering above the 97 million.
Okay. And with any of those deferrals, are there carrying costs associated with that?
No, it's 0%.
Okay. Earlier, Commissioner Mitchell asked about the customer forgiveness program, the $8.5 million. I think I might have asked before, but I want to ask for updated information. So I think the last time, if I recall, the $8.5 million was going to be all shareholder dollars, but there was about a $15 million overall customer arrearage. Is the $15 million overall arrearage, is that current, or what's the current overall arrearage?
I don't have the current overall arrearage. At that point in time, that was, when we spoke in October, I believe that was the arrearage at that time. So it could have grown. I can't speak to what the balance is today, but I can provide a little bit more clarity on the $8.5 million.
Right.
I testified in October that $8.5 million would be shareholder supported. And so how it would be brought forth in a rate case, it would be a subsequent rate case. Depending on how the accounting team records it, whether they record that $8.5 million below the line or above the line. And so in the world of accounting, if it's above the line for rate-making purposes, I would need to remove that so it doesn't get reflected in customer rates going forward. But if it's recorded below the line, then no adjustments needed inside of a revenue requirement because below the line accounts are not included in a revenue requirement calculation. I may have spoke a little bit too much accounting, so apologies.
I do struggle. So I think now my question is, it could potentially come before the commission, and if it won't come.
It should not as far as if it's recorded above the line, I would have to the company would make an adjustment to remove it from its revenue requirement calculation. So then it should not actually be requested to be included in rates that would come before the commission for approval.
Okay, I just want to make sure that however it's recorded, it would not come before the commission to be considered in a future rate
Yes,
case.
I will, on the record, indicate that is not an item that should be recovered from customers in their rates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioner questions? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, of this 97 million, how does that adjustment does that affect the fuel surcharge at all?
It, in essence, it does, because the fuel cost as part of the settlement has, I think it's $13.97 is the new FAC base rate. So that's, 97 million includes fuel. We have modified when those rates, the 97, once that's actually met, the criteria of those 3 months of the billing metrics, the FAC will be adjusted to reflect a FAC base amount of $13.97.
Okay, thank you. You answered, or between the chair and you answered several of my questions that I had, but I also want to go back to the staff's question a while ago about who's going to make that determination, and then that determination then goes on the books. It doesn't go into rates, correct? Is that the way I understood it?
So the determination of whether or not,
The metrics have been met for a month, and then the staff's going to approve or not approve, disallow it, and then it goes on the books. You don't immediately then get to charge that. Is that the way I'm understanding it?
to go back to how I understood the conversation with staff in respect to who's making the ultimate decision, we are providing, the stipulation requires that we provide on a monthly basis by the 15th our metrics and support for that. And then we also agree to fully cooperate with staff and giving them the evidence to make sure that they are comfortable with if we've satisfied it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that comes back to the commission. The staff will give their recommendation that from their work, their evaluation of it, it appears that the company has met the metrics. But ultimately, the authority to change rates lies within the commission, not within the staff's determination of whether or not we've met those metrics. However, please know that let's hypothetically say that we actually meet the first month's metrics. There isn't anything financially happening, nothing. In second month, we meet it. Nothing happens financially for the company or for the customers. Rates are staying the same. The company is still not able to change its rates, so it's only charging customers the tariffs that were actually authorized from the 21 case. That third month, if it's met, we actually still don't record anything. We don't change anything on our financials until those new rates take effect by the commission order.
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does, because I was wondering if it would go into effect if the staff said,
No, it requires the approval from the commission.
yes, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mitchell.
In the determination of the 3 months, there are 3 consecutive months, correct?
Correct.
So if you miss a month, it sort of becomes a rolling 3 months.
Yeah, the clock restarts if we miss a month.
Okay. I had just one other question for you, and if you're not the appropriate witness for it, let me know. But the global stipulation refers to an external audit, engaging an independent auditor to conduct external audits to include but not be limited to customer billing accuracy, timeliness, customer service, and satisfaction levels across all channels. And what is the purpose of that audit, and how does it relate to determining whether the metrics have been met, or does it relate to it at all?
I think indirectly it could relate to the metrics, but the purpose of that paragraph inside the settlement was to come in and make sure that we're actually looking and measuring things correctly. As we have discovered throughout the pendency of this case, the investigation, and several other ways, there's a significant amount of data now in SAP, our new software. And if you aren't using the right criteria, like the fields, you might pull in something and it may distort the data at the end of it because you pulled in an account instead of a customer a customer account level, you're doing it at the parent level instead of at the customer level. So what we were evaluating or considering with the purpose of that is to go in and make sure all the definitions that we're using to measure stuff is right. And then on top of that, we just wanted to make sure that they're going to go in and look to make sure that we're in compliance with all the rules, regulations, tariffs. Just have a third party come in and independently evaluate that for us and help us see if there was something that, you know, we could be doing better along the way to improve this customer satisfaction at the end of the day.
So I'm trying to resolve in my mind whether if that audit should determine that the metrics weren't met prior, is there a backward look to correct that?
I don't believe it was contemplated to go backwards and look at that. Of course, the metrics, we just developed that since the discussion in November, so I think it would be inappropriate to say it was designed to do that because we didn't design the metrics until the December-ish timeframe. But I will say the metrics that we have agreed to inside of the supplemental settlement, those are metrics that staff, you know, they're very qualified in being able to determine whether or not the company has met those. Those are Chapter 13 rules and regulations. Staff has numerous years and experience in being able to determine if a company is meeting those requirements or not.
But at the end of the day, they rely on the company's data to make that determination, and the audit will then validate that data.
Yep, they absolutely rely on the data. They do a very thorough audit on the data, and they ask questions, and that's why, you know, they see discrepancies at times, and that's why we end up having to dig into the data a little bit more along the way and figure out, hey, did we pull in the wrong field? Because this other data point that we provided to staff looks a little different. So staff does a very good audit on it to make sure that what we're providing at the end of the day is satisfactory.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other commission questions for Ms. Emery? Hearing none, we will start with our cross-examination, and we will go first to MECG. And I note the attendance of Renew Missouri, and I left you off of my cross-exam list. Ms. Mers, would you please state your name for the record as representative of Renew Missouri?
Sure, it's Nicole Mers with Renew Missouri, and my information is in the record, and it is okay that you missed me because I have no questions, so thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Let's move to staff.
You were asked about internal audits from the commission, and you stated that staff is a good party to do that audit. What complications or issues do you have with, what's the time frame for, sorry if it's a compound, for using a internal audit as opposed to staff?
I believe that particular portion of the stipulation, I can pull it up here, but I think it indicates that it was the external audit and it would be done within a year of the rates being effective.
So,
And sorry, I would elaborate that it's using, we're gonna do an RFP process, use the help of the other signees on the settlement agreement to make sure that the scope of the work and scope of that audit is appropriate.
so is it fair to say that if you did have to use an external audit, then that would mean that you wouldn't be able to collect on anything until after a year?
So, I was saying that I do not believe that the intention of that paragraph was to guide the metrics associated with the 3 consecutive months or the metrics that's held in the supplemental, because that that part of the paragraph, or that paragraph was contained within the original agreement, which was formed in October. The supplemental metrics came in after the discussion in November. I don't believe there was any intention for that particular paragraph stipulation to govern the supplemental. However, I do think that there was some discussion that perhaps, depending on the timing, they could look at the metrics associated with the customer first, which was designed to come in May of 2026.
Thank you. No further questions.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Vandergriff. Next on my list, Consumers Council.
No questions. I think my questions have been asked. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. I appreciate that. And Mr. Williams.
Stand on our objection.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Ms. Emery, redirect from the company.
Thank you, Your Honor. Real quickly, and not to be too repetitive, but just so that we're all on the same sheet of music in terms of the metrics, we really have been talking about two sets of metrics, correct?
Correct.
And the first set that are included, or that will be applied first, that are included in the supplemental stipulation, apply to Empire getting a rate increase, correct?
Yes.
And separately, and you described that rate increase and the phase-in and all those aspects of it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's a second set of metrics yet to be determined that were originally described at a high level in the base stipulation, or the original non-unanimous global stipulation, correct?
Yes.
And it's those metrics, the consequence of achieving those metrics are the potential for recording some dollars into a regulatory asset, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And that's one of the potential regulatory assets that could be considered in the next rate case that you discussed with Chair Hahn, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have the base stipulation with you?
I do. Let me get them pulled up here. Okay.
And if you would turn to page 6 in paragraph 19.
Okay.
And would you agree that's the external audits paragraph that was being discussed recently in your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. And if you would look down to the third line of that paragraph, there's a sentence that says the primary goal. Would you read that sentence?
Sure. The primary goal of these audits is to evaluate Liberty's current policies and performance against industry standards and peer utility benchmarks, with the intent of identifying opportunities for improvement and establishing measurable criteria for future success.
And the sentence after that establishes the time frame for that audit, correct? What's the time frame?
Yep. The audits will be completed within 1 year from the effective date of new rates established in this proceeding.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Before we excuse our witness, we do have one more question from the chair. That does mean that we will go back through cross-examination and redirect. Chair Hahn.
Sorry, I'm back on the arrearage forgiveness program. Absent this stipulation and agreement, would that arrearage forgiveness program exist?
No.
Follow-up. If this stipulation is adopted, when would that arrearage forgiveness program be made available to customers?
So inside of the settlement term, it indicates that we would need to work with the parties to determine how to apply it. There's, at the end of the day, we have the 8.5 million, but there's different views among the parties on how that should, which customers and how to let that benefit. So we'll start working with the parties on that. However, I would say the 8.5 million going out the door and being applied to customer accounts will align with the effective date of rates. So when the 97 million comes in, that's when the 8.5 million would essentially be owed to apply to customer accounts. To me, it aligns with the matching principle. The 97 million aligns with the 8 million on that. So, said another way, if the company meets all 3 months, so we meet it in January, meet it in February, and meet it in March, during those time frames, during that time, we need to be working with the parties to determine what that forgiveness program actually looks like. And then in a perfect world, let's say we sign off, we give all the documentation to staff by April 15th for March's data. And then, you know, administratively, let's just say it takes a couple of weeks to do what they need to do. So then they get to the end of April. They give their recommendation to the commission that, hey, it looks like the company has met all the criteria. You all agree with that, and let's say you issue an order in April to make those new rates effective. That's when we would go out and apply if the parties had fully reached an agreement on how the 8.5 million should be sent out or applied to customer accounts. That's when we would do that at that point in time.
So if you don't meet the metrics, when would you plan to apply the program?
If we never meet the metrics.
Or on the timeline you described, maybe it takes longer?
Yeah.
When would the customer arrearage program be available?
Again, I believe that it is when the effective date, that is how, we hadn't actually discussed it, so this is just Charlotte's opinion. We can certainly work with the parties, work with the commission on the timing of it, but in my head, it goes with the matching of the 97 million. So when the company has rates designed to collect 97 million, even if it's phased over 3 years, that's when the obligation to pay that out and put that on customer bills or apply it to their accounts would occur.
I'm glad you stated that because that's not the way I had contemplated it or thought that it might work.
That particular paragraph is silent in regards to the effective date. If you look throughout many portions of the paragraphs and stipulated items, many other areas say like effective a year from the effective date of rates, but that particular item is silent. I suspect, I know that sitting here today was not contemplated when we put that stipulation together in that particular term. Generally speaking, if the settlement would have been approved without the additional supplemental, and the rates would have went in effect, it would have just been effective at the date of the commission order as well. This is a unique situation in the fact that we have a settlement term that it's silent in regards to it. So frankly, at the end of the day, I suppose it is ultimately up to the commission if you wanted to order us to be, that becomes effective at the effective date of the order, it could be.
I'm contemplating that it could be applied prior to performance metrics being met. It's apparent that customers have significant arrearage now, potentially as a result of billing discrepancies. And so, I think that the commission will just need to contemplate how that program is applied. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioner questions for Ms. Emery? Hearing none, we will go back through our cross-examination list. We will start first with MECG.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Renew Missouri. Staff.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
CCM.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on this arrearage forgiveness, paragraph 28 of the original base stipulation. And as the company's stipulation here, which is now a position statement, the wording is, the first sentence is, the company will forgive $8.5 million in customer arrears through a targeted relief initiative. I don't see anything in that paragraph that conditions that on any particular revenue requirement being phased in. Is that
Yes,
Right.
that's what I indicated.
okay? And so, even though there might have been a different contemplation, there's nothing in either the first stipulation or the supplemental stipulation that conditions that. Right,
Correct.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. And Office of Public Counsel.
Stand on our objections.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And redirect.
No further redirect. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Emery, you are excused from our witness stand. The commission would like to now turn to staff witnesses. The commission would like to call up Mr. Tyrone Thomason. And while Mr. Thomason makes his way to the witness stand, I just wanted to remind everyone in the room and listening online, we will be we will be recessing at about 10:40, assuming we do not get through all of the witnesses in that time, and that is to make time for agenda, and then we have a rulemaking hearing. We will likely adjourn to 1 o'clock. I am sorry for the delay. Mr. Thomason, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth? Please have a seat and state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Tyrone Thomason, Tyrone Thomason.
Thank you, sir. And are there any commissioner questions for Mr. Thomason? Commissioner Coleman, go ahead.
Since he's gone through the trouble of getting sworn in. So, good morning.
Good morning.
You've heard the testimony this morning from Ms. Watt. Excuse me, I got to go back and make sure I say her name right. Walt and Ms. Emery. And they were asked about billing questions and customer service metrics that must be met before Empire can get anything, and then another metric for customer first. Can you give me your perspective on what's been said about these metrics, or your opinion?
To be specific, just staff's opinion on how the metrics were designed or how this is going to work.
How it's going to work?
Okay, so staff chose these 6 metrics because during the course of some of the metrics, some of these issues are discussed in testimony in this case. A few of these issues are issues that were uncovered over the course of the investigation. They're essentially rule and tariff violations that staff has found that have occurred more or less continuously since April 2024. And so our thought was that if we can provide metrics that have the company fix these issues, then that would show improvement from the starting point of April 2024. So that is what, for the 97 million, that is what we're doing for just the rule violations. this will not cover all of the other customer service issues, many of which you will find in my testimony in this case. Those will be covered in the customer first asset metrics that will be developed by the end of May of 2026, sorry.
In your opinion, what happens if the customer service metrics are not met? What are our options?
For the 97 million,
Yes.
the company, my understanding is they don't receive the 97 million increase unless they are met for 3 consecutive months.
I'm sorry, say that again. I couldn't hear you very well.
My understanding is that they would not receive their revenue requirement increase if they do not meet those metrics for 3 consecutive months.
Okay.
And I can add on to that is that staff's intention is to roll in these metrics into the customer first metrics as well. So compliance won't be just for the 3 months, will be going forward as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any other commission questions for Mr. Thomason? Commissioner Kolkmeyer, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Good morning, Mr. Thomason. For the most part, have you agreed with the procedures that the two company witnesses have set forth? Have you agreed with that process? I don't want you to go back over it, but have you agreed with what they have said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other commission questions for Mr. Thomason? We will go to cross-examination. Let me check my list. For staff witnesses, the order I have written down is Empire, MECG, Renew, CCM, and OPC. So we will turn first to the company.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Opitz. Ms. Mers? Consumers Council.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Thomason.
Good morning.
I want to clarify that I heard you correctly earlier. You were talking about the metrics relating to customer first, and I think you said something about how you expected those metrics to go forward into the future. And,
Yes.
Could you explain what you meant by that?
So the 6 metrics that we have here in the supplemental stipulation, staff's intention is that when we do the customer first assets, the ones, customer first metrics, those metrics that will be developed by the end of May, it will be these 6 metrics with additional metrics, the customer service metrics.
Okay. So you're saying that you would anticipate that the supplemental stipulation metrics that are proposed as a condition to any rate increase going into effect would then also be part of the customer first metrics?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I understand. And let me ask you about the staff investigation into Liberty's, the separate case that I believe you're involved with.
Yes, I am.
And when we were here for the regular hearing, you said that you were expecting a report by December 31st, and that the delay up until then had been because new issues kept resurfacing and the scope.
Judge, before we finish this question, I'm sorry, Mr. Kaufman, I'm going to make an objection just because I think this is beyond the commission questions that were asked of Mr. Thomason.
Mr. Kaufman?
Well, I think they're pretty relevant. They're just about about billing issues and what's, issues that we think aren't sufficiently included in the current metrics.
This has been a pretty convoluted case, and this on the record has been scheduled rather late in the process. So I'm willing to give Consumers Council a little latitude. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, regardless of what the reason for the delay to December 31st, you asked for another delay, staff asked for another delay, and the commission granted it until February. Right, so those of us that are parties to this case will not have the benefit of that report until after a rate case decision is made in this rate case, right?
As most likely, yes.
Well, first of all, what is the, what was the reason for that staff requested another delay in that report?
I believe in the motion for the status report, the reasons were continued discovery and press of business.
Okay. Are there any billing issues that you've seen in the investigation thus far that would be relevant?
I'm sorry, Mr. Kaufman, I misunderstood. I thought you had asked about heat rates, which is paragraph 42 of the global stipulation. I did not
Your Honor.
understand that you intended to ask about a separate case.
Well, it was a case about the very topic we're here discussing, the billing issues of this utility. And, I mean, the witnesses.
How many more questions do you have, Mr. Kaufman?
Just, I don't know, a couple, depending on the answers I get. Let me say, the question that I want to ask is, are there other issues that have popped up in the investigation that staff has made that are not being addressed in either of these stipulations?
Mr. Kaufman, on its face, that does not seem like an appropriate question to me. Do you have another question?
No, that's what I have.
Okay,
I
thank you.
understand, thank you.
Public counsel, Mr. Williams.
Public counsel stands on its objection.
Thank you, sir, and we'll go back to redirect.
Good morning, Mr. Thomason. You were asked earlier, do you agree with the positions that the company witnesses had, portrayed before the commission before? I want to turn back to the question regarding who will agree on the metrics. Do you have the original non-unanimous global stipulation and agreement available to you?
Yes, I do.
If you turn to page 2, paragraph 6, would you mind reading the first sentence in that section, in that paragraph?
It says, "The parties will confer on the appropriate and reasonably achievable monthly normalized performance metrics and targets in the separate investigation and reach agreement by May 31st, 2026.
Do you agree, or do you find anything in that sentence that limits the approval process to the signatories, or does it include all parties, including parties like the OPC and Consumers Council? I'll rephrase it. Will the OPC and Consumer Council be involved with conferring on the appropriate and reasonably achievable monthly normalized performance metrics and targets?
I'm not aware of anything in this agreement that would say otherwise.
And are we still, the parties, working on the new conditions to be met for Customer First, or has that been established?
Those discussions are not started yet.
No further questions.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Thomason. You are excused from the witness stand. Commissioners, we have one more witness that I have on my list. We are up against our time to try and get in activities of the commissioners, and then agenda at 11. Would the commissioners like to go ahead and call one witness, or would the commissioners prefer to recess until 1 o'clock? Okay, we have a decision. We will recess in just a minute, and we will come back at 11:30. I previously had mentioned 1 o'clock. That is incorrect. 11:30. I have it on good advice. That agenda will be relatively short today, and so we are coming back at 11:30. Any questions before I bang the gavel and we go into recess? Excellent. We are at recess. Thank you.
Okay, so today, don't you have a meeting today with Ameren? You don't have a meeting with Ameren today? He claims he does.
Well, hang on. Is this it?